And we're live.
Yes,
we're live.
We certainly are, Craig. I'm alive.
And hopefully you can hear us, guys. We're transmitting from home today because we got Nanny Joan with us, Jane's mum, in the background. So we can't really leave for the office today. So studio. So she's 95 this week, isn't she, Jane? Yes. 95 years old. Let's hope we all live that long. We can have lots and lots of YouTubes from us. So we'll be taking your questions. We're not going to do. We're going to. The Craig and Jane show bit we've been discussing it. We'd like it to be much more spiritual, the spiritual side of our work. So with the Craig and Jane show, you're going to get things such as, you know, all the insights you normally get into things such as the paranormal world, into spirituality, into what we can teach you, any tips we can give you as psychics and mediums, and that type of thing. We'll also sometimes have guests and the rest of it, but the prediction stuff tends to be on my channel with the Coffee with Craig, and also on Jane's channel, separate channel. You can also listen to predictions because you've got some planned, I think, Jane, this week. Yes,
I've got my next lot of predictions are going to be about the royal family predictions, and then I do world predictions after that.
Yeah, this is the Itchy Nose show, right? Sorry.
Right, coming into money.
Yeah, Craig. Money's on its way. So here we go, guys. So I'm going to say we're going to say a few hellos. Jane will be saying the hellos while I'll be clicking the screen just to keep us going. So I might put a few spammers up if I'm not careful. No. So say the hellos for us, Jane, eh?
Right, I had to put my glasses on, Craigos. Right. Alexander, hi, Craig and Jane, wishing you a beautiful and blessed summer solstice from Glendale, California. You too, Alexandra.
We'll say a few hellos at the beginning, always, as you know. Just let everybody get online.
Ava, hi, Jane and Craig. That's Ava. Michelle, good evening, Craig and Jane. What's the topic of conversation tonight? Spiritual things.
And well, generally spiritual things. And I think anything that you guys can come up with, really. I mean, we were thinking about talking about psychometry and what it is and what it means. That's quite an interesting topic, but we could go in any direction you like, really. This is the thing with the show. We
don't want to touch Ukraine, and we don't want to touch predictions. Keep it purely spiritual.
Yeah, I think we'll keep those to the other parts of the show for that type of thing. So hello from Dakos. Mary, hello in advance from Cork Island.
Top of the morning, top of the afternoon or evening.
Someone did want the situation to go great already.
Well,
we know we're already there, guys. We will talk about that in our other parts of the shows. You know, sometimes we touch upon it in this show. But
Ducker said, "Good evening, everybody. Good evening."
But what we really like, we like to get your questions and that sort of thing. And if you've got any interesting thoughts, I should have got my glasses. I'm struggling to read the tense text. It's so small.
Newcomb says hello from Texas. Also, please be very aware that sometimes we have Nigerian people or African people that are offering you clairvoyance and they're after your money basically, and that. So please don't respond to them because we are not asking for money. For this
we never approach anybody privately, particularly on Facebook or anything. So hi Alex, nice of you to come on board too. Bonjour from France. Bonjour to you. And
Mark, hello, Craig and Jane.
Hello guys. I wonder if we got anyone here from India. I pick up to someone from India. See, I've got the button.
You're looking at this. Namaste from India. Namaste.
Hi there. Always nice. I always think it's nice when we get people coming in from India and all around the world.
Linda Badham, hello you too. Hello Linda.
And there's someone saying happy 95th to you, Jane.
No, they're not. Darren, happy 95th.
Happy 95th to Nanny Joan. Sweet. Yeah. Actually, I put a video up. I think it's still on this channel somewhere. The manifesto of Nanny Joan. You should watch that. It's funny.
I mean, Alf Garnett, honestly, those two will get on fantastic, wouldn't they?
Yeah, Jane, Nanny Joan's watching in the other room, so be careful what you say. So another one here, Lisa Parr. Good evening, Craig, Jane, and Mum.
Good evening, Lisa.
And hello there, Stephen.
Is that New Zealand?
Yeah. And someone's also asking about the situation in Ukraine.
Sorry. This is going to be purely spiritual.
We're going to keep on the spiritual stuff. We could talk about. I think we could start off, Jane, talking a little bit about psychometry. I think I'll just flick a few hellos up.
Hello, Frank. You missed that one.
Yeah.
Heather, hello. Steve. Evening, Craig and Jane. Stephen, Spraggs. Phil. Good evening, Jane, Craig, and everyone. Good evening, Phil. Rachel, hi from Torbay.
We try to get a few of your hellos
Justine
up. It's always a
Ferry,
nice
hello,
start.
Craig, and lovely Jane. Adore you both from St. Joe's. Yes, aren't we wonderful, Craig?
We're wonderful. Yes, all over the world you appreciate us.
Twin flames. Lisa, howdy from Arkansas. You say it.
Arkansas. Oh, I think I've been pronounced it wrong too. Bloody Americans, you have difficult words.
Steve says good evening. Good evening, Steve.
That's the same one. Hang on. I've got to be careful not to pick.
Darren, hope you're both well. We're extremely well, thank you, Darren.
Went there, so I'm going to send her itching vibes to everybody.
My nose is itching too. Perhaps you're in for some money then, Lottie.
I'm right down in Perth there in Australia too. We've got
2 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, people are keen to watch us tonight, I think. I flicked through a few.
Jamie,
Baby Avocado, who come on regular. Another one of our patrons. Thank you.
Nice to see you today.
And also all the patrons that come on board. Thank you again. We'll post a little bit. We've had a very, very, very massively busy few weeks, actually. Unbelievable. So I'll post a bit more on the patron pages soon and set you up a new Zoom there, guys, and we'll do some more. But you can't believe we've had a very, very hectic time.
Joanne Smith, hello Jane and Craig. Hi Joanne. Vera, why do people have the same dreams over and over again?
Oh, that's quite an interesting start. Should we start with that one, or shall we start with the psychometry? Okay, we might come back to that one, Vera. And so let's have a chat about what we think about psychometry, shall we? Because I think that's an interesting start. You wanted to talk.
Okay. Now, psychometry is holding an object, which it could be a ring, and you pick up the vibration. The good thing, I think, is that sometimes, if people go into, example, a pawnbroker and buy a ring or something, sometimes that ring might be carry sadness, it might have carried love, or it might carry that something was very precious and things. But sometimes you find these Victorian brooches or rings with a person's hair in, what they used to have, Craig. So you wonder about that person. And I always think a good thing is to get a brown paper bag. And what you could do if you wanted to pick up more about psychometry is turn your back and perhaps get friends or people you don't know to put objects in the bag and pick it up and see what the vibration comes into your mind's eye. And you can also do that with flowers, because you can pick different flowers in the garden, put them in a large bowl, and then it's quite good party piece actually. And the person pick that flower up, then you can do an interpretation of that flower, because flowers mean things, don't they, Craig? Yeah,
well, yeah. So basically psychometry, like Jane's explained, it's like we leave a sort of a mark all the time on the world around us. So our awareness is getting absorbed in things, particularly objects we've worn, and they will hold the metal, they think particularly, will hold the vibrations of things. And of course, when you're psychic, you can pick up, and there's just like in just like there is in archaeology, there's layers and layers and layers often. So you'll get the first vibrations of the person that's owning it now, and then you can also pick up who's owned it right back into the past. Jane, don't move the mic, or we'll lose it.
Can people hear me?
Yeah, they won't hear either of us if we move the mic away.
Yeah, but can they hear me?
Okay, so basically what you're doing with psychometry is you're getting you're picking up all these vibrations. You're picking up the feelings, the thoughts, and intuitions of the person, the hopes, the fears. And I use it, and Jane uses it as well, and particularly when I'm training people how to develop their abilities. This is kind of an ability to help you get into your into your intuition, so you know exactly what you're picking up about that person. It's a great way in. And like Jane said, the flowers also can absorb energy. And so often in a teaching class, I will give people flowers, or get them to bring a flower. Their vibration gets upon that, so you can read the vibration from the flower itself. And also the shape and structure of the flower can also be used as a form of interpretation.
And also, Craig, did you know at a spiritual naming service they use flowers that they can put in a bowl, or it might come through from the spirit realm, naming a child? It could be water lily, it could be rose, it could be many things that comes through naturally, and by absorbing all that energy on those flowers, and that vibration comes through from the other side to name that child in the naming service. Which
I've not been to a naming service. So why did they have the flower In what respect?
Well, you put a bowl, it's like the spirit name. I mean, you give a child an ordinary name, what you choose, a boy or girl's name, but they have a very spiritual name, and it might be a flower. It could be a North American Indian wanting something. It could be the colour turquoise, or it can be water lily and things, and it all comes that child's spirit name.
I can think of some great ways of playing around.
Yes, well, we won't go that area, Craig. This is serious.
Often the spiritual name is given in different ways. Like my spiritual name, Paraswaran, was given to me. Was given me through the Nadi. But I imagine what Jane would give me. I don't know.
It's definitely not humming bear.
Yeah. But so this psychometry, it also opens up a whole range of interesting ideas actually that could discuss. Maybe perhaps more than one for the Coffee with Craig days. But I mean, the idea of what is this consciousness, and can it rub off on things like that? How is it we can leave a mark? And the same thing, psychometry works with the same idea of buildings and things like that will pick up a vibration from the people that have lived there. This is what hauntings are often about, the stone recording idea, that the stone has this residual energy to it, these ghost shows have got silly with it, but
basically, Craig, I'm a ghost set next to you.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
I feel it today, I'm so tired. But so this idea that consciousness can expand outside of ourselves, it can go into objects, and how far back could we look? And when we've been to places like Stonehenge and Avebury, you can't touch the stones in Stonehenge anymore, but Avebury Ring you can. And when you put your hand on things like that, or you put your hand on Winchester Cathedral, for example, you see at the beginning, you can get flashbacks. Yeah, flashbacks right the way back through history. And I'm really personally very, very interested in this idea of psychic archaeology. It's something that I really love. I've worked a lot with historians, and I've worked with museum curators sometimes with holding objects. I've got some old Stone Age tools here that one gave me once, actually in the room somewhere around it. And it's amazing what you pick up, particularly if you don't know what you're looking at. Like Jane said, you put it in a bag or something, you don't even know what the object is. And also with police stuff, of course, too.
Yes, I've done lots of police work where they actually bring maps, and I use a dowsing crystal. And then when that energy goes on that mat, it's the opposite way, then I put crosses on to find missing things for people, be missing children or objects that I can help the police.
See, Jane Oxley there was picking up before we even talked about it. So we answered her question before, and also I see some comments there. Stonehenge is a very strange atmosphere. Yeah, a fabulously strange atmosphere, actually, isn't it? And it's the problem is, nowadays is the atmosphere there has been very much destroyed because there's just thousands of people walking around it, which completely kills it. But I love walking that area because it's not far from us, and I've walked those areas. Actually, we walked it sometimes very early in the morning once, and we came across and saw Stonehenge in the pretty much at dawn when nobody was there and the place was not open, and we stood on one of the tumuli and watched it. What an energy that gives! And of course, it's just part of a whole. That Stonehenge itself is just one part of a huge landscape.
You got a story about Stonehenge when you camped there and you had an experience there where you felt there's a story where somebody disappeared, didn't they? They were camping there. I don't know if it was in the 60s or 70s, and people wondered if...
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, well, I'll go into another time then. Okay.
When we're separate, the camera's having trouble focusing. Here I see. Let's have a look. So there's someone saying here about the spiritual name. I like to think that the spiritual name stays with the soul through incarnations.
It does.
I think we probably do have a spirit. Some say we have a spiritual name that is there already, and that all the medium does is pick up on it.
Call me?
And he calls me Shiva and you Shakti.
Yes.
Which is like the male and female energies, really. I'm just going to try to catch some of your. All right, keep us some questions, guys. I see we're having a chat, some of you here. Another comment about Stonehenge. We used to have picnics at Stonehenge when I was a kid in London before barbed wire. Amazing energy. Yeah, I remember we used to go out there late at night when we were young, and you could even they had the sacrificial stone. I remember we used to be able to, you used to sit on that and have a cup of coffee late at night and watch the moon over Stonehenge, and there wouldn't be a soul there. Nobody, nobody was in the way. You could just you were allowed to do it. It wasn't fenced off.
Isn't it a heritage?
It's a heritage site,
so
but they put that barbed wire around after that's an illegal Stonehenge festival, which I went to, and then people were all climbing over the stones, and some idiots had started spraying stuff, and just as well they did. In the end, that was the end of it. Obviously, too many people ruined it, really, and a few daft people. I'm having trouble reading some of these. Yes, well, we found some crop circles, didn't we, Jane? We went out with the drone.
Yeah, the drone pic, and this is so amazing because we found all these crop circles really in a sacred place, and in the middle of nowhere, an old man with a walking stick walked through the field. Do you remember?
Oh, right, yeah. Well, there's a video of it on our channel here that we did where we found that we went out there with the drone and found it. It was really quite interesting, wasn't it? I think a lot of these crop circles are obviously made by blokes down the pub walking with big planks on their feet to knock down the crops, but I think some of them there's something to be said about the mystery of it, isn't it, really? Here's an interesting thought. How do you know that you're ready to become a medium and give readings to people, particularly that bit about giving readings? When is a person ready?
Well, I really believe that as mediums are born with that gift, and there's lots of mediums that have to sit in a circle at least 7 years. You don't go on courses and after 6 weeks you're suddenly a medium, and you have to go on the platform as a fledgling and be with a very good medium that helps you, and then it's learning, get your confidence and what spirit's showing you. And then it's a lot harder doing one-to-ones. It's a lot easier doing it with a lot of people in a spiritualist church because the energy is high, and then you've got to practice, and you must always be true, have integrity, have compassion, and remember people that have lost loved ones, that have been children or somebody that's very special to them. You're dealing with people from all different vibrations, and the spirit will work through you if you're a good vehicle, very sincere, and you start sensing clairsentience in your solar plexus here, your heart chakra here, and clairaudience, and you suddenly will be in tune with the spirit. I always believe it's the spirit world that decide who's going to be a medium, and God, of course.
And of course, if the best way if you want to develop to become a medium, you really need. I mean, I did it all through spiritualism. I never stepped into a spiritualist church before I developed to become a medium. I became a medium and then went to spiritualist churches. I'll deal with those, Jane. But the thing is, I lost it now. There's a structure there. You learn, first of all, how to you start off with psychometry in a circle. You might then develop ability to sense auras. You might start to gradually do psychic work, and then gradually start to work towards giving spirit messages and the proofs. And when your level is evidence, and when you're really able to give a really capable message, then that circle may then become a group of platform fledgling mediums. So they're just about ready to leave the nest, as it were, and they will then give messages to a sympathetic audience. And then if you're good, then some of them might be invited to join and demonstrate on spiritualist evenings.
Can you think a person that's just
I'm sorry, Jane, I'm just I'm just going to do them one at a time. So, and paid for message, thank you very much, Philip. After the disheartening news about abortion becoming illegal in the US, do you see that decision causing an uprising of riots and changing back the decision? Well, do you want to say something first, Jane?
Well, you can.
Okay, so some of the things I think the danger with this type of thing is particularly when you reverse a law so radically. I mean, when the laws have been made about abortion, it's not really all, well, I suppose it is black and white. You either have the abortion or you don't. But there's lots of other issues, isn't there? There's what about abortion, about children that have been raped? What about incest in the family? What about situations where someone's been brought into the country and they've been raped abroad or something? What about the situation if the child is known to be going to be born extremely deformed? I mean, is it fair to bring a child into the world that's extremely deformed? I mean, you know, there's huge moral questions with it. And the danger, though, is when we can reverse laws like that very quickly. What could be the next one on the list? Could there be a gay marriage rejection now? So, you know, I mean, a lot of gay people have worked very hard to have gay marriage and become accepted by society as a true couple. Do we now reverse that? And how far back can you go with this? How far back? Well, then we might start getting racist laws as well. And who knows where these things could end up? This is too much of a knee-jerk reaction. And in many ways, these things might be better put out to the vote, just like we had Brexit put out to the vote. Perhaps it should be something put out to the vote. And even then, it's difficult. So unfortunately, I don't know about uprights and riots. I think it's going to cause trouble, because this is just one more little bit that's causing divisions in American society, and the same divisions are happening all over the democracies of the world. So I worry about it. I think it's an exceptionally difficult, touchy topic, hard one to really address, because there's so much to be involved. That from my personal point of view, this is just my viewpoint, I think that abortions are necessary sometimes. They should be few and very carefully considered. They should not be just something that's just done to order because you've had a one-night stand. You know, it should be something that's with lots of counselling that goes in. And it's obviously, from a woman's point of view, it's not easy, you know, anyway. I
personally don't agree with abortions, because I feel life's very precious. And I believe in karma. Now, if you have a child that's conceived and has got something wrong with it, I mean, years and years ago when I was a nurse, if we had a child born with Down syndromes, they didn't want, because they had breathing difficulties, they didn't want them to live. And I mean, who plays the role of God? And these children are so sweet, so special.
Yeah, it's a hard bit.
It is very hard. Say if it's a 13-year-old that suddenly, like Craig was saying, got raped, and perhaps it might be your granddaughter or a friend's daughter, how are you going to feel about that? Is it going to ruin their life? I mean, I think you've got to really look at the bigger picture myself.
There's no black and white with this. It's very much a grey areas, actually, like all of the things of the law, really, because there's huge moral things. And also, you know, at what point does the child's spirit enter the womb? I mean, when I just had an Nadi done recently, and they always say to you, okay, Craig, you're 68 in Western terms, but in Indian term, in the Nadi terms, you're 69, because it counts the time you're already in the womb.
That's right.
So it says, so you're 60, 69. So I'm not 68, I'm 69 running. I look 35, don't I? But
you told me you were 21.
but you know, this is the thing. When does the child come into the womb? Does it come at the moment of conception? Does it come at the moment of the quickening, like it's said within spiritualism with people like Silver Birch, or does it come at the moment when the child is born, which a lot of people would have also argued? So, you know, it's a difficult one. You know, it's a soul, isn't it? And it's a very, very hard topic, and I'm sure we can't answer that one completely for you tonight. But the USA will continue to become more divided, and I predict civil war. Well, I actually thought that some time ago.
Well, there will be riots to come all over the world yet.
But we're going to go on to the predictions at another time. But I mean, there's a lot I'm going to be talking about in the coming weeks and months about America, particularly because I think there's a lot brewing at the moment, and there's a lot more to come. And let me just have a look at this. Yeah, so we got a few comments on that. I'll put those up.
Yeah.
That's an important one. When has Boo his, you know, Boo's a boy, believe it or not. He's a transgender cat, actually. When will Boo have his own YouTube channel? I have actually thought seriously about doing a little sort of Boo comment thing that pops up in the corner, and maybe have a few little sort of Boo time. You know, I was going to put a iPad, not an iPad, what do you call it? I forgot the name.
Pro.
GoPro on him and send him out and see, and we can have Adventures of Boo. Send him down to see the badgers.
Somebody has actually done that, haven't they?
Yeah.
He was in the woods.
Yes, at state level. Okay, yeah. So let's have a look. Some people asking about all sorts of things here. Let's have a look at that one.
What's this one? Okay. Divine energy says it's all is my creation. Every soul is the right to live. The soul contract has been made before we enter this world to cut out calm. Who makes these contracts then?
Well, spiritually, I suppose. But I mean, this is the thing. We look at the world very much in two ways, don't we? I mean, a lot of people look at the world purely as a material world and to make a basis of moral decisions based upon material concepts, that. But then spiritually, there's another way of looking at it. When you look at the world as being a place where we're here to learn, and a place where it's not all about what you have and what you get, and not always necessarily about not suffering. It's about growing and growth and becoming who we really are and becoming our full potential as spiritual beings. So it's a difficult one. That's an important comment. Love your shirt, Craig. Thank you. And you like the scarf with it.
Oh, I never noticed it.
It's camouflage. Lots and lots of comments here coming up about this here. What was that one? That looks at your book of life is written before you're born. Do you think that?
No, I don't, because I feel that you've got your own free will. I believe if we talk about many lives, past incarnations, that we can come back many times. And I feel that you have to use your consciousness. You've got to be a good human being with good values and do good works in this life.
So I think what you mean when we talk about the book of life, what I suppose we have a destiny in a way. I mean, in India, some of the peoples, and not all, but it's a misconception mainly, but many of the people on the East sometimes kind of say it's all destined, if it be God's will, then that's it. And therefore I just have to go along with everything, which is this kind of acceptance of the idea that life is going to unfold in the way it is meant to do. There's nothing you can do about it. Where the West, we can tend to have a more attitude of, if it's broke, let's fix it, and the two things kind of need to have come more together as the world's modernized. But I think we do have a certain amount of destiny. So I think the map is given to me when we're born, the blueprint, the map, the trajectory. But each of us has free will. And therefore, although it is written up to a point, that it's written on a map, but you don't necessarily, you still have to make decisions if you've got a map, don't you? You can follow Google, I suppose, and end up in trouble sometimes. But a map is like the map, and you've got to make decisions about which way to go. And so we have choice, we have free will. I'm going to grab a few more questions. Oh, I missed it. Hang on. That one looked good. Which is the most accurate way to pick up the future? Through guides, or through personal intuition, or clairvoyance? Well,
it depends. You can go and see an avatar. You can see.
No, actually, I think she means person, or he or she means person. Yeah, how do you do it?
You're born with clairvoyance, aren't you?
Yeah, so there's ways to pick up the future, though, isn't it? I mean, do you get your insights? You would be saying there through spirit guides.
No, I get them through natural. I don't always.
Yeah, I don't hear it. I don't hear it from the spirit guides necessarily. No. You just kind of see it.
You see it, you hear it, you feel it.
And so it's a kind of intuition, but it's not really a personal intuition. It's more like I think of it in terms of perhaps connecting with like the universal mind. That's a bit like the internet. When you look something up on the internet, you type in your question, and it'll find its answer because you kind of plugged into something that's bigger than you.
Well, if we were to go back to Notre Dame, he used to do water scribing, didn't he?
Well, there's methods of different techniques. So meditation's a technique, dreams are a technique, connecting with the spirit guides is a technique, and anything like that. But you see people making predictions about the future and things using tarot cards and things. Those are just the tools, I mean, a clairvoyant uses those things, but they're just mirrors. It's the clairvoyance, I suppose, the actual intuitive insight where you've kind of connected onto something bigger.
Hearing, knowing.
Yeah, all those things, and I think of them. You see, you don't get it through the mind. There's a part of ourselves that I would call transcendental. There's a part of all of us that is outside of this world. A bit like I think one of the people was saying earlier on. That's a bit like, we come with we make a decision to come here. But there's a part of ourselves that is beyond normal thinking. We think with all the ever going round sort of verbal dialogue that goes on in people's heads, and we're all stuck in this world on this sort of treadmill. But there's also a part of ourselves that can step back and not be tied in with the mind. And this is where we go into the world of the vast intuitive mind. This is the world of the enlightenment. This is the world of divine knowledge. And I think these things come once we can kind of, in a way, step outside of ourselves. That's kind of the heart. It's inadequate what I've told you there, but it's on the way, I think. What are your thoughts on spirit rescue, where you help lost souls into the light? And what is your thoughts on spirit attachment as well? That's quite an interesting one, Ches. These are some interesting questions.
Well, many years ago, they used to say, don't have Ouija boards, because you'll have a spirit that have attachment to you and create bad things. Now, nothing can attach itself to you. If somebody has an alcoholic problem or a drug problem or hallucinations, they're going to pick up these senses and feel that they're being controlled. Spirit rescue is really that somebody's got to go towards the light. They're trapped between the two worlds, the physical world and the spirit world, and they can't accept it's their time to move on. So therefore, a very gifted medium would help them to go over and ask for a loved one on the other side to come and collect them.
Yeah, I'm looking up here, but not because of any spirits or anything, but I've got a book up there. I'm going to get it down, actually, which is a brilliant one for this. Whoops. You can all see my belly. There we go. 30 Years Among the Dead. Okay, that was by Carl Whitland. That was a real good classic spiritualist book. I don't know if any of you guys out there have read it. But this guy, his wife, he was a spiritualist. His wife used to go into trance, and he used to give her electric shocks. And
don't get any ideas, Craig.
And when the spirit would, and then they use electric shocks on the spirit when the spirit came through. Now, it's an interest. It is worth reading actually on a serious level. But it makes you so this thing about when they saw spirit possession, often psychological things were mistaken. You only need to think about stories like that, the 100 Faces of Eve, and stories like that, where multiple personality syndrome, where people who have been in such an impossible situation, particularly levels of extreme abuse as children, that in order to protect themselves, they kind of put up multiple personas, multiple selves, and it's like a split self, and it appears like multiple people, but it's actually a self-defense system of the mind trying to escape impossible situations. So this is where we get into a very difficult ground sometimes between the difference between what is spirit possession, what is spirit rescue, and what is real cases. Now, putting aside all that psychological stuff, because I think there's a lot of it can be that, I do think sometimes there can be attacks from negative spirits. I've seen it around people. It's very, very rare. And it's usually a case if the person has already some form of mental disharmony of some sort, disattracted, that sort of thing. It could even be something projected from that person themselves. Like we've seen poltergeist activity, for example, around people when we did that boat that time. And that, for example, there was poltergeist activity. But I thought, now, is that a discarnate spirit doing that? Or is that the woman's own disturbed psychology that is actually pushing out and making things move? Just like, assuming Uri Geller is true, he would bend a spoon. He's using the mind over matter. Yeah. So this psychokinesis is going on there sometimes. Any other thoughts on that, Jane?
No, not really.
Okay, I'll see if I can find
through as many questions as possible.
What's this one about? Do you have info on the fractal level? Well, I've not heard about the fractal level. However, fractals are a very interesting thing, because I believe that the whole of existence is made up in a fractal sort of way. Actually, this is something that I perhaps would not talk about another time, but just as there's a mathematics, I think,
and atoms.
yeah, and I think everything in existence, and when you look at the world around you and you gaze at things in a certain way, the grass, the trees, the sky, all kind of has a fractal makeup. And I think that fractal makeup we see is partly our brain creating structures to make us see things. That's how our perceptions work. But I think there's an awful lot to be discovered about fractal, but I don't know what the fractal level is, so I can't really answer that. I'm not reading these properly. I'm reading them as they come up, more or less. Rosemary Kennedy was given a lobotomy because she was a boisterous teen. What happens to people like this?
Well, I think it got banned when they actually done electric shock treatments and done all this.
No, the lobotomy was actually cutting.
Yeah, I know what it is, Craig. I'm more qualified than you. But they used to treat it for people if they were sort of manic and manic depressive and things like that. And they first tested it on pigs and that. And I thought it was a very cruel thing, actually, because you get people actually exhausted afterwards when they've had electric treatment and lobotomies. What about there was a mistake?
Yeah, I mean, some lobotomy, they cut the corpus callosum, which is the connection of the brains that connects the two lobes of the brain. And we have
lobotomies start from here, Craig.
The lobotomy, I think, works on that. So basically, when you have lobotomy, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. When you cut this, the brain has two spheres which work differently. One is intuitive, one can grasp the whole thing, and the other one is more rational and can divide things into small things, as it were. So these two different lobes of the brain, when you separate them, the brain suddenly can, for example, the person might be able to be shown the color yellow and might be able to describe it as yellow, or no, let's say they can name a thing but can't understand what the thing is. So the brain eventually can find some ways round this cut. So basically what's happening with lobotomy is the brain is not working. So it's a function of the brain, but the soul is still intact.
Yes.
And I think the soul, like I said before, stands outside of the normal mind, you know, this transcendental self that I spoke about. You don't want to say any more about that one?
No, I think we've answered that. I think we want to get as many questions rather than going on and on.
Okay, so there we go. Someone saying that.
Love you, Jane, from one Libra to another. And Craig, my late husband, was an Aquarius. You two are awesome. Well, that's nice. Isn't that lovely?
One of our patrons here, you have predicted earthquakes. Will the city of the Seven Hills be destroyed as predicted by St. Malachi? We're not going to do predictions today, but I think that the earthquakes were right, weren't they? I predicted them last month, at the beginning of the month, and they happened in Afghanistan. I think that's one to be discussed. Also, I'd love to talk at some time about the popes, the story of the popes, actually, and the predictions made about them. There's one someone's asking about distant healing.
Right, Nana, I always wanted to do distant healing. How do you go about it? I tried it, but I don't think I've done. Well, Nana, I feel the best thing is to get a book and write that person's name down. And I always think distant healing is very good at the universal time of 10 o'clock at night. And then just sit there with your thoughts and do a visualization of that person that needs help, be it illness or be it that they need to rest or anything, and visualize that and keep doing that and send out that energy. It does work because you're doing that with love and you're doing that with kindness and compassion. See, thoughts are things, and thoughts can extend beyond us. So thoughts will fly from us. And the important thing with healing, particularly as Jane's talking about there with distant healing, is that you always visualize the person as well. You know, you don't visualize, you forget about the illness. You know, they might have an awful cancer or something like that. Don't think about that. You think just about seeing them, visualizing them healthy and well. This can be done even when you're stood with the person if they're ill. You know, you visit someone in hospital, don't be distracted by the fact that their body looks bad.
go to the soul. And then if you see them as well, your positivity will help them. And also naturally, your body's healing energy, which we would call prana, is projected to them to help them. So we have this life force within us. And that life force is called prana energy, from the subtle body. Have you guys been to Glastonbury, and is it as spiritual as everyone says?
Well, we have been to Glastonbury. And there's all different mixtures of people.
We had our honeymoon in Glastonbury.
Yes, some of them, what I would say, go to Glastonbury are involved a bit space cadet-like.
Yeah, and it still is.
But it's a nice energy. I mean, we recently purchased a cat for our daughter for her birthday. She's into all these funny furless cats, isn't she?
Oh, she was off to Stonehenge, not Glastonbury.
No,
I think.
No. Listen, and this lady had lovely energy and everything, and it felt right, very right. And I think spirituality's got to start wherever you are, be it Stonehenge, Glastonbury. I mean, Glastonbury is well known. The festival's on all over this weekend, isn't it? But I just feel, even like the Avery Rings and places that you can feel all those energies.
I think the time to go to Glastonbury is when no one else is there.
Yes.
And maybe go there on a misty, wet day and have a look at it. And then you get a bit of a better, clearer view of it, I think. Unfortunately, last time we went, they seem to have done a load of stuff to Glastonbury Abbey, and you can't just walk into it now, which was a shame. And then they have all sort of history stuff and things like that. There's a chalice well there. There's the tour itself. The street's quite interesting. It's all sort of hippie shops. It's an interesting place. I would say the more spiritual place to go and have a look if you're coming to Britain and you want to look around that area is Avebury Ring. I mentioned it earlier. Much more interesting, much more where you can actually get up with the stones. And if you're prepared to walk a bit, you've got Silbury Hill there, and you've also got the incredible, I can never remember the name of the other bit with the big stone on top where you can go underneath and inside it. Much more fascinating, I would say.
Next question. You can't see, can you?
Okay, now I've got to read them all though, Jane. Have a chat with people. Jane will talk to you while I have a look at this.
Yeah, I think spirituality has got to be something where you have your own personal inner view, what you feel about life, about the universe, about the earth plane. It's got to be something that's important to you and what you experience. Now, what does Linda say?
So asking you about the idea of is the spirit attached to the body by a silver thread?
Well, that's an old spiritualist thing, isn't it?
Basically, the idea of that is that we have a subtle body, an astral duplicate of ourselves. And just like we have an umbilical cord when we're born, they have this idea that there's an umbilical cord attached to the spirit body.
No, when you're actually born, like the crown chakra is open when you're a baby, and on the time of death, a baby's crown, it closes after a week or so, and then on the time of death, passing over, that opens up, and I believe that your soul goes through that crown chakra. I've seen it because I experienced it with my stepfather when I saw him pass over to the spirit world. The whole outline of his body was in a green fluorescent light, and he suddenly floated up to the ceiling, but I didn't see a silver cord.
No, and this is one of the reasons we can distinguish, I think, sometimes between a real out-of-body experiences and those that seem to be more like fantasy, because those people that have had near-death experiences, when you read them, the real on the operating table near-death experiences don't talk about a silver cord. I think this is the sort of thing that's got a little bit, some of the theosophists I think spoke about this. Lobsang Rampa, the plumber that was the Tibetan monk, also put a lot of misconceptions out there about that. Just because people say it doesn't mean it's true. You'll find out for yourself, I think, when we leave our body ourselves one day and we go into the next world. Well, that's quite interesting. Agility Bits having us. We're going off in all sorts of directions today, but it is interesting. I find it interesting because, we say, should we plan it tonight? And we think, well, actually, in a way, it's more fun doing it this way. Have you ever seen hypnopopic images? Do they mean anything? Well, there's two types of images. There's hypnagogic, which are images you see as you're going to sleep. And they're kind of like a a flow of incredible pictures that come to your mind as you just between waking and sleeping. You get this hypnagogic dreaming, and so it's a form of dreaming where it's like incredible images coming into your mind that you could think, I could never make that up, and they're almost impossible to hold. You know, you think, I've got to remember that. Like when I was a painter, I used to think, oh, I must hold this image, and you can't. It just, and the same with hypnopopic images. I don't know quite what you experienced there with yours, but these happen as you wake up. People get so, and that's rarer actually, hypnopompic. People see them as they're waking up, and sometimes see images on the ceiling or in the room just before the brain wakes up. But they're part of the, perhaps they're part of the brain function. But I often wonder that these incredible streams of imagery can sometimes be something that seem to be, always get the feeling with it as if you're connecting to something bigger than the self and the brain. It's like you're seeing something that is other worlds. And I get it a lot because I'm a very visual thinker. Do you get that, Jane?
No, I'm afraid when I go to bed, I just want to sleep and rest after a hard day.
Well, actually, it's very restful. If you can get into the hypnagogic state, that state between waking and sleeping, they use it in yoga a lot, in the Nidra type teachings. But I think there's a lot to be learned from that. And I wish science would experiment with it a bit more. Well, they are, but see it perhaps as an area of clairvoyance as well. I'm going to pop this one up, not read it fully. Do psychics have the power to see what someone's future would be like if they did something different in the past that might have changed their future?
An ID oracle would answer that.
No, I think what he's saying, isn't he? Stephen's saying here, when the path not travelled, they're talking about. Supposing instead of becoming a medium, I continued being working in advertising, or before I did that, perhaps if I continued as a painter, because I was a painter for many years, or if you continued as a nurse and went into a different path. Do psychics sometimes see the choices that people have to make on the path through life?
Well, it's a personal choice, isn't it? Use your own free will, don't you?
I think once the path's been chosen, the path's been chosen, really. And I think when we do work with people, like any psychic type reading, the psychic will first of all tell you about who you are and what you've done, because we tell you about, there's no good just telling you the future, because anybody could make it up, couldn't they? So you've got to give some credentials to that. So two ways that when Jane and I work, if we're working on a psychic level, or clairvoyance, Jane would call it, with somebody, then we would say, you did this in life, you did that, in such and such age, you did this, and things. Oh, yes. And once we've established that we know we're connected with the person, we got it right, then we might say something about their future. You're not going to just sit in front of you and say, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. You have to establish it. So, or else, the other way we would do it is with mediumship, in which we give proof of somebody that's connecting with them from the spirit side. And when we do that, then that's when we see the paths that not taken, yes, wouldn't we? Do you think? Question. Yeah. Kind of a bit of a question for the future. Do you think that we will turn into a cashless society, Craig and Jane? Everyone's worried about the Great Reset agenda.
Well, I think the future is going to be that we'll be using all these watches. We won't be handling money as such. The world is changing so rapidly. I mean, all the land is going, isn't it? Or buildings and everything. Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, when you've got a cashless society, you've got more control. Absolutely. And this is the worry, isn't it? Because if you control, whoever controls the cash or controls the information, as we found out with the internet, controls the world. And we're getting more and more to the point where we're all beholden to huge companies. Are very hard for people to set up a small business. Sometimes, a small business might work by cash to begin with, because give us cash, mate, we'll be all right. And that's the way those people that are just starting off, perhaps in trades and things, that black economy, as it were, I'm describing, actually is kind of, in a way, the only way some people can ever get started in life. And to put it all where you have to put it all through without cash is a bit dangerous, really, because it means that everything is so heavily controlled that it kind of stomps a bit on people becoming entrepreneurs, I think. And you're always hooked into the grid, aren't you? I mean, they know where you are every time you make a payment, every time you make a micro payment, every time you pay for car parking or whatever, or every time you know where the person is. You could track them all over the world if they want to get into it, you know. And this is the danger. I mean, we're losing our freedom more and more and more. And I like it when you go to places that haven't developed that so much, although it is happening. When you go to places like the third world countries, or you go to India and you go to Thailand and you go to, there's still that little bit of entrepreneurial thing where there's someone able to set up a little coffee stand somewhere or something. But in the modern Western societies now, and more so in places like India and China and places, people have to sort of be part of this huge agenda of big business. And we're all just slaves to it. I mean, I'd hate to be setting a business up nowadays. You wouldn't know where to begin if you were just starting, would you? You know, it's scary. It is scary. And it's definitely something we'll look at sometime in the future. Okay, there's one for you, Jane. You have to answer that one, and I'll look for some new ones.
All right, Alexander. If two or more are present in my name, I shall be there. If more people pray together for healing, it works. Well, healing and good energy can be a powerful tool. It's like all our prayers going out for the war in Ukraine, for all those children, animals, and people. So all the world needs to come together in prayer to help. And it's true, Alexander. Prayers do help. It brings that energy and that vibration up. It doesn't matter what religion you are, be it a Sikh, be it a Muslim, be a Christian, as long as you're a good person and you're sincere in the heart and you give out love and a high energy, the power of prayer works.
And also, something that I've always found when we do circles, when people share energy, because prayer is a projection of energy, really, in some respects, I think. When we work together in a circle, the sum is greater than the sum. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So everybody puts their energy in, but what you end up with is much more energy than all of you collectively have. It magnifies, and I think prayer, in a way, I mean, I don't believe in a God like a Father Christmas God type of concept, as I said. It's kind of like an infinite, we could go into that in great depth, an infinity of consciousness that we are also. But but like Brahma, I believe. But anyway, but the energy that we project out, if we do it collectively, works. And prayer is just like healing. It sends out a vibration that does good. And I think the problem is people, when they pray, they're always begging, you know, they're begging God to make things better for me, make things better for me. You know, you should do it, like I said, with the healing. You think only positive things for the person. If your prayer for somebody else's better thing, because it's not for you, it's for someone else. Or if it's for yourself and your family, just see it in a positive way, in positivity, not this begging. God does not want people to be beggars, and that's where I think prayers can fall down sometimes. We are all divine beings who have a divine birthright to become enlightened. Anyway, let's see if we've got another one.
Craig's picking these out, so I'm not allowed to read them or pick them out.
Well, you get completely lost if two of us do it, Jane. Here's one for you, Jane. The Akashic Records. I'll have another look.
We've already asked you.
Have we?
One. I like the one by the Hindu one there.
Where's that?
I like it very much. Hi, Craig and Jane. What does it mean when you
that
dream?
One?
Yeah, we've answered that.
Okay.
Hi, Craig and Jane. What does it mean when we dream of holy places, Hindu gods, please? Well, I believe that when we reach these dreams come to us, because I remember once Sai Baba came to me in a dream, said, front row, you come on a Tuesday, you leave on a Thursday afterwards. And he showed me the ashram, which was blue and pink, and it was exactly like that.
Yeah.
And I believe in Hindu gods as well.
I had an incredible dream once of I dreamed of Varanasi. I'd never been to Varanasi at that time. And I went to Varanasi in the dream, and it was all made of gold. It was, every building was made of solid gold. And I was amazed at it. And I was walking through the city of gold, and then I saw a temple in the Ganges that had sunk. and it was in the water and it had sunk down in the water. And I was standing there looking at it. And it was this was another one of the Sai Baba dreams. And Sai Baba showed me this and showed me the city of gold. And then some time later, I went to Varanasi, and it's certainly not gold, but I went there, and to my astonishment, our hotel, which was right down, it wasn't really a hotel, it was lodgings that were right down on one of the old ghats where they burn the bodies, right side the window, they're burning the bodies with the wood. It's Sindhi Ghat, it was called. And right in front of our window was a sunken temple. And I looked at it and thought, my God, that's exactly the dream, and I was shocked by it when I saw it, because I thought that's exactly the dream. And in a way, that's a symbolic thing in the dream. It's a city of gold, isn't it? And I think the Hindu gods, I believe, on one level, they're all representations of the God, the one God. The aspects of the one God, the destruction, the holding together, the creation. And all the different aspects. Family and money and all the different types of things are symbolized, just as other religions have used it in Egypt and Greece and the rest. They're symbols, but also I think there's a real energy to it. Just like we, in a way, we create tulpas. We can talk about. We can create, like we were talking at the beginning about psychometry. Maybe the power of thought can form together to create a being who then becomes self-animated by our connection to it. So I think there's a reality to it too. Even elephant-headed gods, there's a reality to it. And even the old gods of Egypt could still be reanimated by the power of others' thoughts, because these are all part, I think, of the universal mind somehow. It's a difficult topic. When I try to describe it, it all sounds wrong. I'll probably have to do a bit more of a detailed one on it for you.
Andre, if you've had dreams of holy places and Hindu gods, then you're very blessed from the great divine. Yeah.
I mean, to dream of any of the gods. I mean, people dream of Jesus, don't they? And people dream of Shiva and so forth. All these are connections with the divinity in ourselves, ultimately.
I going to mention patrons.
So of course, we're getting close to the end. Actually, I didn't realise where we are. So, thank you everybody that's been supporting this channel, and particularly those of you that have been patrons. I've seen a few of you coming on. The secret little signs you give me to show that you're a patron. And I always do try to give you a bit of priority if I can, because you're helping us. And any of you that can help us with this channel would be really grateful, because Jane and I are really trying hard to get together an ashram, a spiritual center. We've made a few steps, but we need some help. So, and also to help with the channel and keep it going, because the money you give to us as a patron, which you'll find in the description below, we don't take a penny of that. It all goes for the cause, as it were. It all goes so we can keep the studio going where you normally see us from, but also we're working to build a fund and try to eventually get a place where, you guys can come to us and see it. And we're doing it with love. We're doing it for free. We're doing it without expectation of reward. We're doing it because we love what we do. And if you love what we do and you feel you can help, become a patron. You can even just a tiny amount per month. If enough of you do that, amazing things can happen, because many drops make an ocean. So we don't expect you to give fortunes. You can give a fortune if you want. There's one or two people may want to help us on a bigger way.
I remember Mother Teresa said to somebody, "How many rich people do you know?" And I said, "Well, I know two very rich people, Mother Teresa." "Good. Tell them I need the money to build a hospital and give me some money." And it happened like that.
Yeah. So it does kind of, it's like we were saying about power of prayer too, wasn't it? The more you connect together, the greater things happen. When we all connect together here on this channel, we generate an energy. People sometimes say, "Oh, it's like you're talking to me directly, Craig," or "It's like, Jane, you're talking to me personally, Jane." Actually, we are. You're not going bonkers, because we're all kind of connecting on that same level together, aren't we? And I think we can, and the world needs this. It needs much more people doing things not just for selfish reasons, because so many people do things because it's what suits me best. You look at the politicians, you look at the materialist type of people out there, and it's all about me and selfish. So we're trying to do it for free. We did our theatre shows, didn't we, Jane? And we did that for free as well, and that was hard going, and other people in the background supporting us. There's others that have been helping us, Jose and that have been helping us in the background, and others, so help us have a look at the patrons. And also I wanted to before we go, some of you know that I talk a lot. I'm just going to find the thing here. We talk a lot about Sharavana Baba, the one that I went to India to see. Where's it gone? I want to who we there it is. So I wrote my book, Be Happy, and you can also go and buy Be Happy as well, because if you buy my book Be Happy, that also means we actually make some money as well. But it is another act of love writing these books. It tells you about how to handle these terrible times, really. I mean, it's keep remaining happy no matter how bad it gets, basically. But we go to see Sharavana. He's fabulous. Now he's in London at the moment, and they're doing a special Western evening, a day, so you can go and see him. So I've put the ad up actually for you, so you can have a look at it. That way. Hiya. So you can go and have a look at finger that way. You can. I'm not going to try. I'll tell you all about it on there, so you can just see it on your screen. We might try to get there ourselves if we can, but we've recently saw him, and he's a beautiful energy, and he talks to everybody one at a time, and you'll get a chance. And particularly those coming from abroad, you can always mention my name too, and me and Jane's name. When you come from abroad, he'll try to see people if you've flown in the early morning, if you get there early, and see you personally. So it's a chance to get a personal connection with an extremely beautiful holy man. You don't have to go to India like I did. You can just come to London. So it's all on there. You can go. We can wind it back and have a look later if you're interested in that sort of thing. That's not a product placement. Obviously, we get no money from anything like this. We're just doing this because we want you guys to just find a spiritual path. Craig. Yeah. You can send us a good karma. That's enough. Right. I suppose I better find the button to end it. Really go. Just bear with me. We're going to be saying bye-bye in a moment. Yeah, no, that's the other one. There we go. I found it. So we're going to say goodbye now. See you soon.
Ciao.
Bye for now.